Hi, and welcome back to Biblical Theology, Exegesis, and Hermeneutics, where meaning is always context-driven. I'm your host, John Strazicich, and today we'll be continuing on in our studies in the book of Hebrews, and we're finally hit chapter 13, so if you have your Bibles, go ahead and open them up to chapter 13. Okay, now coming here to Attridge, he'll set the table for us in our discussion leading into chapter 13. One of the key literary problems of Hebrews is the relationship between chapter 13 and what precedes. There is obviously a shift in tone and style at 13:1 from the solemn warning of the previous pericope to the series of discrete and we'll say staccato-like admonitions that began this chapter. A large central segment of the chapter, verses 7 to 19, develops in a more integrated way a series of themes that have some relationship to the overarching concerns of the text. This is followed by a benediction in verses 20 to 21 and final greetings 22 to 25 in good epistolatory style. There is no reason to doubt that they too were composed by the author of the whole work. While the last verses serve an obvious epistolatory function, and thus to some extent function as a covering memo for the document as a whole, that function is not grounds for doubting their authenticity. The entirety of chapter 13 should thus be viewed as an integral part of the whole work. Okay, and so those are some very good words coming from Attridge in his excellent commentary on this particular book that I have shared with you throughout the this journey here in our work here in the book of Hebrews. Okay, now coming here to this slide, what we typically do is offer a translation of our text, and then we will then present some type of structural analysis here for the text. So if you have your Bibles, then we'll go here to chapter 13, verse 1. Let brotherly love continue. Do not be neglectful of hospitality, for through this certain having entertained angels without knowing it. Be mindful of prisoners, as if having been bound together with them, and of those who are suffering harm, as if you yourselves were in the body. Let marriage be honorable in all things, and let the marriage bed be undefiled, for God shall judge fornicators and adulterers. Let life be without the love of money, being content with those things which are present. For he has said, I shall by no means leave you nor forsake you, so that we say boldly, the Lord is my helper. I shall not be afraid. What shall man do to me? Okay, so coming here then to these first 6 verses, what scholars have typically understood this particular unit is to be consisted of 4 couplets with a total of 8 different either admonitions or exhortations here. And that they're to be understood in twos, and so that's how we will proceed here, and it really does follow. It follows through here. It's important here to see that we, when you're looking at verses 1 to 2, it also comes with the basis clause here. And so for out of the 4 admonitions, 3 of these have basis clauses here, okay? Here's the first, here's the second here, and then here is the third, okay? So the odd man out here is then going to be, become or be mindful of prisoners. But what this has in place, it has a comparative clause, as if being bound together, and be mindful of those suffering harm, as if you yourselves were in the body, or are in the body, that being bound together in the body. So it's some type of, you're to imitate them by analogy. So we're to be mindful of them as if we're being bound together with them, or of those suffering harm as if suffering together in our body. So then it makes up for the basis statement in the other ones. It does so here by having an imitative analogy here. For verse 3. And then we'll see here that then, A, and then C, and then D, these all have the basis statements here. And the last one becomes a scriptural basis clause here. And it's important here to see that our author has... he starts off here with Philadelphia here, and then in the second member of the first couplet, we have here philoxenia here. So we have the love of the brotherhood, and we have love of strangers, which we would call hospitality. And then notice down here, let one's life be without the love of money. So this just has the alpha negative on the front of it, fila'arguros here, down here, and this is, let life be without the love of money, literally. Okay, so that's what this particular word here. So you could see how the framework is all centered around love here. The love of, the let life be without the love of money, or let the love of the brotherhood here. We have here with Philadelphia, love of the brotherhood, and then love of strangers. So that seems to be the glue that connects this whole thing together. The couplet in verse 3 would be basically examples of how to love, and that would be, showing solidarity with prisoners or with those suffering harm. That would be an example of how to love. And then the third would be, protecting marriage, and that marriage is to be held honorable, and there is to be sexual purity within marriage. So then this would look at love in the marriage point of view. And then lastly, the fourth couplet about, let life be without the love of money, and being content with the status quo of way things are. So this is this is a pretty solid way of viewing and understanding the text, and then analyzing it, knowing here that we have three basis clauses that we'll look, that form the basis for the admonition or exhortations here, and that the last one then here ends in scriptural basis clause here, and then it calls upon the scripture for forming the basis for contentment, okay, and life without the love of money. Okay, now coming here to verses 1 and 2 here, we'll look here at verse 1. and we just simply have an imperative here, and we have our subject here. And this is the only occurrence here of a third person imperative in the book, meneto, here, and that just simply, and it's in present tense. So it's just it has this durative aspect of, let brotherly love continue, remain, but it's for the duration of time here. And when we look here, when you come down here to the second sentence, do not be neglectful of hospitality, you'll see here that we have phila here and we have phila here. Okay, so this is love of the brotherhood, and this is love of strangers. So in Greek, you can see how the author has made a couplet here. But in English, our words don't have this correspondence as they do in Greek in these compound words here. So the compound here is either philos or philae here, and so whether it's love of brotherhood or love of strangers, so we can see how this is this verses 1 and 2 form a couplet. Okay, and it goes deeper than that as well. If we look here at this particular verb down here, elethon here, this is an aorist, but its lexical entry is lon thonomai, okay, and then that is going to be this is going to mirror here. Well, this is just simply epi lon thon amai, okay, so this just has the the prefix epi on it, right on top of lon thonomai. So this is connected with here, okay, and then down here we have this connected to here with xenia and zenizo here. So this first couplet is so intricately intertwined by means of the very words themselves, which doesn't really come out in English as it does in Greek here. So it would be, it's important here that you see these connections here, especially here for the student of Greek, and so this just redoubles and quadruples the idea here that we're working on a couplet here, that verses 1 and 2 are bound together, and it's even done all the way down to the base words of themselves. So this is it's important to see this web of interconnectivity here. But as far as let brotherly love continue. So within Christianity, what's new here for the first century is that Christianity viewed that we were all brothers and sisters together, as a community. The church is to identify ourselves as brothers and sisters, and that's important. And we can see this all over the Pauline literature as well, and even earlier in the book where Jesus is called our brother here, and that that he sanctified the brotherhood here. By his offering, you can see that back in chapter 2. So that this is important, and the analogy was drawn out of, I believe, Isaiah. When we looked at that, it could have been chapter 8 or something like that. Yeah, I think it was. Anyhow, so we, the church is made up of brothers and sisters, and that's how we are to relate to one another. So he just says, let brotherly love continue, as they have been doing, and he's just, this is first of all, if we don't have a brotherly sisterly relationship, this is a foundation of the church, is that we love one another, and Jesus said this, by this all men will know that that you're my disciples, if you have love one for another. And so this is it's basically the core of 1 John, and beginning with Christ, especially in Johannine there, chapter 13 following. Brotherly love and for one another, brotherly and sisterly love within the community is an absolute necessity, and that we view ourselves that way. And so we have this command here in this couplet: love within and then without. So within would be within the church, and then without, if we come here to verse 2, do not be neglectful of hospitality, for by means of this certain have entertained angels, we could say unawares or without knowing it here. So this would show us that hospitality, to strangers here, that's what we're talking about, because if you knew them, then you would know whether the person is a person or it's an angelic visitation. So this is talking about hospitality to strangers here, because you don't know the person that you are hosting as a guest in your house, showing hospitality. So that's what's going on here in verse 2. I know that the commentaries in the books say that, they say this refers most likely back to Abraham when he was visited by by God and two angels. But I think that Abraham knew right away what he was dealing with. I don't think he was unawares of who he was hosting, at the moment here. Anyhow, this example here of entertaining angels unawares, that obviously it was something that our author knew that had happened, within his own day, and if it's happening then, it's happening now. So this isn't something that doesn't happen today, and God has His reasons for this, and it's given in a basis statement here. So we have these, we have this exhortation here. Hey, Philadelphia, Mineto, let brotherly love continue. And then we have me epilanthanesthe, do not neglect. And so this is a present middle imperative. And it would be wrong to translate this, do not forget hospitality, because the middle voice, it comes with skin in the game here. You've got, the middle voice denotes that the subject is both an agent of an action and also somehow concerned with the action. So you've got skin in the game here. And so it's either going to affect you positively or negatively. So when the middle voice is used, it calls for special attention to the subject, and it emphasizes the subject's participation. So So if we have here may, so this prohibition here, do not forget. No, it means do not be neglectful. So somehow you have skin in the game in this. It's just not simply, you're forgetting, but you're neglecting something. Don't neglect. So the middle voice would demand that we would translate this neglect. So you've definitely got skin in the game. Okay, so don't neglect hospitality, and then it tells you the reason why. We got a basis clause. For certain, on account of this, have entertained angels without knowing it. So we have zenizantes here. This would be, a adverbial participle that we would translate this here. And then elathon here is just the aorist form here of lanthanomai. Tinnis is our subject. We have this prepositional phrase here of instrumentality or by means here, by means of showing hospitality to strangers here. Certain have entertained angels without knowing it. So this here forms our first couplet here, by our author, and we'll move on. So coming here then to verse 3, we have our second couplet here, and it's basically, the way I'd understand it is it's really an example text of how to demonstrate one's love, and this would be mindful of prisoners, and to be mindful of those who suffer who are suffering hardships or suffering harm. Okay, and it does so by two. Instead of having a basis clause, we have two comparative clauses, and they both come here with an adverbial use of the participle that is conditional. So we're gonna put if on here. So if we come here at verse 3, and this is this mimnes kestha. This is a middle second person plural present imperative. So this is be mindful of prisoners. Okay, as if having been bound together. It's as if you're bound together with them. Okay, and then again, mimnes kestha, be mindful of those who are suffering harm, as, so we have our comparative clause here, as if being yourselves also in the body, or as if you're also suffering together with them in the body. That's how we are to understand this adverbial, this comparative clause with this adverbial participle. So this here would serve as two examples of demonstrating how we show our love, is that we are looking after here those in the community that are prisoners, that are suffering for their faith, and those who are suffering harm. And we can see this back, this goes all the way back to Christ, when Matthew 25, I was in prison and you visited me, I was sick and you visited me, or you came to me. And so these are things that that we are to show and show solidarity with them, because if this condition happened to us, if we were in prison or we were suffering harm, it would be nice to know that there are those around you who suffer together with you sympathetically, and show their love in such a way. And then we are called upon as if we were, bound together with these in prison, or, as if we were suffering, bodily, together with these who are suffering some type of unfortunate situation. So such is the second couplet here in this last chapter of these 4 couplets. Okay, now coming here to our third couplet here on marriage and the marriage bed. Looking here diagrammatically, hagamos here is going to be our subject. We have to supply the verb here, esto. Let marriage be honorable. So then we have this, timios here is going to function as a predicate adjective here. And we're going to have a pair of predicate adjectives down here. Amiontos here is, undefiled here. This is going to be likewise a predicate adjective here. So both of timios here and amiontos here are serving as predicate nominatives here. So marriage is to be held in honor, okay, in all things. So that, marriage is never to be belittled. It is to be honored. It is foundational. And remember, we're talking about biblical marriage here, Adam and Eve style. Okay, we're not looking at Adam and Steve, but we're looking at Adam and Eve here. So this is remember biblical authority here of marriage. It's between one man and one woman in the New Testament. So this is it's to be held honorable. It's not to be disrespected in any way, and it's never ever to be belittled. Okay, so that is to be held in high honor, and that is how we are to understand marriage. So it's very, very foundational to society. And then likewise, then he says, and so the second couplet is, let the marriage bed be undefiled. Okay, so now we're talking about sexual purity within marriage, and that there is not to be any type of adultery or some type of, we have, for God shall judge fornicators and adulterers. Okay, so fornicators is just any type of sexual activity outside of marriage. That's what this refers to. And then here, adultery is just going to be, any type of sexual activity outside, outside of your marriage. So this is talking about actually people who are married that would commit some type of extramarital affairs. Okay, and then when it says when God judges fornicators, it could refer to people who are not married yet, and people who are married here, and that's how most people are going to interpret this. But God will judge, all adulterers and fornicators, and this is specifically talking about people who are Christians. Of course, here, he's talking to Christians, so God is going to judge any Christian that participates in any type of fornication or adultery, and that's a given. That will happen. That will come down, and so God will knows how to judge those who commit serious crimes against marriage and against the marriage bed. And it doesn't mean that he won't forgive, but remember, we're talking about a covenant here. Marriage is a covenant, and it's to be very honorable, and so you do not dishonor marriage, and you don't defile it by sharing the marriage bed with someone other than your spouse. Okay. So this is strictly forbidden. The American church, doesn't really too much honor marriage. They'll get a divorce pretty quick. What is marriage to them? I just don't get along with my spouse. It's crazy here. So there's lots of people who are disrespect marriage, and they will be judged for if you don't. The only way to get divorced in the New Testament is because there's been some type of sexual infidelity in the marriage. Okay. And so, other reasons for, there's reasons maybe for separation for a time, but for divorce, I just don't think that it's to be taken very, very seriously. There may be certain cases, where divorce, if your partner's a murderer or something like that, I'm not, there may be other very, 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 very few other circumstances, where we would understand this, but I'm just basically saying, you don't get divorced after you've been married, except under very, very, very extreme situations, such as sexual infidelity of a partner in marriage. So marriage is to be honorable, viewed from within and without. Okay, other people may view marriage and have different views on it, but it is to be, whatever it is, it's to be held in honor and by those within marriage and those without. And likewise, the marriage bed is to be protected and not to be violated. Okay, then coming here to our last couplet here, looking at verse 5 here, and we'll this here needs to be a predicate adjective here. Okay, afillargyros is a predicate adjective. So we're to translate this and let the course of life be without the love of money, being content with those things that are present. So we're just going to deal here with the 5a here, and so we have here that like I said, this is a predicate adjective here, afillargyros here, and when we look at this particular word here and look at its compound nature, it's comprised of three different words here. We have the alpha deprivative here, a, which wouldn't be negative here. So this would be the term how we would translate without. Phila, we'll put philae here. That's basically the core of the word. And then argyros here, and that's why it has the argyros here. This is just simply the term for money here. Literally the love of money is fine here. And so we can see here then, when we look back to verse 1, we had Philadelphia, we had filoxenia, and now we have afilαργυρος here. So then this, you can see then that this whole 4 series of couplets was bound by the term love here, okay? And this one's negated, the love of money here. So, this is important, and it's how to, in Greek you would discern this reading it, the original readers, but in English it may not come out so simple for us to discern all this, since we're coming to this, in a different language. But anyhow, we have this arkumenoi here from arkao, to be content here. And this is a passive here, present passive, and this is an adverbial passive, and then it's being modified by another participle, substantively. So this is another present participle, which means the things that are present here. So what this is basically telling us is that, the love of money is not to be the controlling, is not to be controlling us as humans. And we're to be content with the present status. That's how we'd understand this. Be content with the present status of where you're at. And don't be completely driven by it says the course of life. So this is all of life. It's it's very it's just the way and manner of life isn't to be driven by money, which really does affect the American the American society, which is driven by money. So you can see why Christianity in America suffers here. It's not that hard to discern, okay? People that are just driven to get money, they like Paul said, they pain themselves through with many woes, and the love of money becomes the root of all types of sins and iniquities. So we are to not let the love of money control us, drive us in any manner. It's mammon. You can't serve God and mammon. So let this inform your life, and your present status as you are. That and it comes with the basis clause, and we'll come to that. Now, coming here to the basis clause, starting here with gar, this gets pretty interesting, and it's going to bifurcate itself into a reference here to Deuteronomy, I believe 31, and then coming down here to Psalm 118. So we'll see how this develops here. But this is he ends with a big splash here with this scriptural basis clause, and it's probably a result purpose clause here. For he himself has said, I shall by no means leave you, nor by any means forsake you, with the result that we are to confidently say, the Lord is my helper, and I shall not fear what man shall do to me. So we look here. So we look here at autos. Here's the subject. It's intensive, the pronoun here, and it's reflexive. So we're going to say he himself, picking up here on the perfect active from Lego here. This irregular verb, how it takes form here in the perfect, a raken here. And and so this here is functioning as the speech report formula. That's how we would understand autos ereken here, for he himself has said, and then it's going to go into direct discourse here, and then he's citing here Deuteronomy 31, most likely, I would say, and so here we have from Aniemi here, I shall by no means leave you, nor by any means forsake you here. So these are aorist subjunctives here of Aniemi and katalepo here, for these forms here, these is aorist subjunctives here. And then we drop down into this this result clause, purpose clause here, so that or with result that we are to confidently say. So then this functions also as a speech report formula here, and what we have here is the in this infinitive clause, it's the infinitive here is functioning more like the noun part of its nature, and so this is why we're going to have a subject here in the accusative. So hemos becomes the subject of this infinitive clause, and then we have this adverbial participle paruntos here, tharuntos here. So from thareo. So this here is going to be like cheerful or bold here, and so we're going to look at this. It's adverbial use of manner or some type like that. So we say boldly, and then it goes in here then to direct speech, like it did above here. Okay, and these two here are functioning as speech report formula here, introducing the direct speech, and then here we have the predicate adjective here, the Lord is my helper, I shall not be afraid, what shall man do to me? So this is the basis clause for not being driven by money. We're to be content with the way things are present. So the status quo of your life, be content. Because. So this is telling you the motive here. Why can I be content with the way things are at financially? It's because the Lord shall never leave you nor forsake you. You are to boldly say, the Lord is my helper, I shall not be afraid, what shall man do to me? So ultimately, God is the one who supplies us with all of our needs, and so this is how that we ought to live here. We ought to live here by being content with the way things are, and not to be driven by the love of money, but to be content here. So this is huge, and it's important here that that the author is using script. This is a scriptural basis clause, okay, and maybe result or purpose clause here, so that we are to boldly say. So now we are the ones. We become the speech reporting formula, and we are telling God why, and what are we saying? Well, God, you are my helper, and therefore I'm not going to be afraid, and I'm not going to be, what can man do to me? All right, well, if God's your helper, then what can man do to you? Okay, so why should you be afraid? If God's the helper, then boom. This thing's it's all done. Man can't stand in front of God. So there ain't going to be no one who can stand in front of God and oppose God. It's just not going to happen. So that means that God's going to come through for us with our finances, and that we're to be content with our present circumstances. Okay, coming here to this slide, it may be helpful for us to go back and look at the MT and the LXX here to kind of see exactly the context from which our author was fishing. So if we come here, I'd say that Deuteronomy 31 would be the best text from which we would see our author lifting this quotation from. And to kind of give you a little bit of the context, it says, Vayelech Moshe Vayedaber et hadevarim ha'ele el kol Yisrael Vayomer Alehem ben Mea ve'esrim shana anochi hayom lo uchal od latzet v'lavo. So I'll just translate this. I don't need to bore you with all this. And Moses went and spoke these words to all Israel, and he said to them, I am 120 years old today. I am no longer able to go out and to come in. And Yahweh said to me, you shall not pass over this Jordan. And Yahweh your God, he is the one who is going before you. He shall destroy these nations before you, and Joshua shall cause them to be, I guess, disinherited. He is going before you, just as Yahweh spoke, and Yahweh shall do to them just as he did to Sihon and to Og, Malkei Ha-Emori, the kings of the Amorites, and to their land, which he caused them to be destroyed. And Yahweh put them before you, and you did to them according to all the commandment which I commanded you. Be strong, courageous, do not be afraid, do not be terrified before them. For Yahweh your God, he is the one going with you. He shall not leave you, nor shall he forsake you. And Moses called to Joshua and said to him, to the eyes of all Israel, be strong, courageous. You shall bring this people to the land that Yahweh swore to their fathers to give to them, and you shall cause them to inherit it. And Yahweh, he is going before you, and he shall be with you. He shall not leave you, nor shall he forsake you. Do not be afraid, and do not be dismayed. Okay, so basically, so the command here is one to Israel, that God's, for them not to be afraid, and then also then for Joshua personally, for him not to be afraid. Okay, so because what? Yahweh is the one who's going with you, and he will do all this work for you on your behalf. And then when we come here, then you can see, we'll pick up here in verse 5, and the Lord shall deliver them over to you, and you shall do to them just as I commanded you. Be a man, be strong, do not fear, nor be a coward, nor be alarmed from before them, because the Lord your God is the one who goes before you and with you. He, and he shall not leave you, nor by any means forsake you. Okay, so here we can see this being applied here, down here to Joshua here, and it was also then stated before that here, also on behalf of the people, that Yahweh, he's the one that's going before them, and they're not to be, that Yahweh's not going to leave them nor forsake them as well. So anyhow, so we can see this here in verse 5 of the verse 6 here, in verse 6 here in the MT 31:6. Okay, that is given. And then again down here in 31:8, okay, and that's going to be then here, he'll not leave you nor forsake you. Then this is going to be for Joshua down here, okay. So anyhow, so there, this is being reflective. So it's about the conquest of the land, and that that these nations that are bigger and better and whatever than Israel, and not to be afraid, even though you may look, they are the giants, and that you are you're smaller in stature than them. Don't be afraid by any means, and God is the one who's going to be with you. So if God's going to be with you in war, he's going to be with you in your finances. That's the case here. Okay, now coming here then look here at Psalm 118 here to see the second part of the scriptural quotation that we are to boldly say here. And in the Septuagint, we come down here, Kurios emoi ba'ethos, the Lord is my helper, u phabe thesamai, I shall not be afraid, ti poi ese moi anthropos, what shall man do to me? So this then comes here from verse 6 here of the Psalm. And I guess we would translate this, Adonai li lo ira ma ya'aseh li adam. And so then the Septuagint here picks up Adonai li, typically Yahweh belongs to me, or is, the Septuagint is going to say is my helper here. And so that's a fine translation here for Yahweh, for Yehovah Li here, or Adonai Li. That would be fine. The Lord is my helper. I shall not be afraid. What shall man do to me? So this is part of the Hallel Psalms here in the book of Psalms, and so if this is what we are to boldly say, is that the Lord is my helper, therefore I shall not be afraid, and what is it that man can do to me if the Lord's my helper? There's no reason for me to be afraid. So this is basically the gist of how to understand this from the context here of this Hallel Psalm here. And he calls upon all Israel here, give thanks to Yahweh, for it is good, for his loving kindness is everlasting. Let Israel now say, his kindness is everlasting. Let the house of Aaron now say that his kindness is everlasting. Let now those who fear the Lord say his loving kindness is is forever. And then it says, I called upon Yah from my distress, or from distress, and he answered me in a spacious Yah answered me in a spacious place. So Yah here becomes an apocopated form of the tetragrammaton here, and so typically we say Yahweh. It would be written like this, or if you want to look at it like this here, Yehovah here, you can look at it like that. Typically, scholarship looks at it as Yahweh here. I'm not going to get into it. But anyhow, so however you like it, there you are. And so this is, he's appropriating this scripture here, and then resignifying it for the community in terms of financial distress. So, we saw that in Deuteronomy passage, it was, out of the context of war, with the conquest of Canaan. And then here, this Hallel psalm is that we are to be praising God because his loving kindness is forever, and because of Yahweh's love for us, what can man do to us? Why should we be afraid? And Yahweh is our helper. So this here is just out of the context of life here, that we are to praise Yahweh because of who he is and what he's done for us. And so this really works fine here contextually with our passage, and it would work really, really nicely here in the financial context as well. So this is how he appropriated and resignified it, and this is where he got the scripture from, and this is very, very appropriate. Okay, so this has been a rather short day today. This is Biblical Theology and Exegesis, where meaning is always driven by the context. Please like, share, and subscribe. Make comments as you will, and be blessed.